Stretching is the worst type of exercise. It's both boring and very painful to do, but the benefits it has on the body and mind are undeniable, unfortunately. And as someone who likes to feel good as often as possible, it would be stupid to not stretch. So today I'll be doing each of these extreme exercises from Baki and rank them based on appearance, pain and relief, all the while avoiding tearing my hamstrings. So based on my current level of flexibility, the basic splits is generally safe to do, which is why it's a 5-star rating on the health and safety scale. But as we progress, each exercise is going to get harder and less safe for my hamstrings. With that being said, I was already struggling here, especially after consuming too much food. So to solve this issue, I rolled out the yoga mat and it helped because I was getting close. I tried to do the banana splits, which wasn't bad given how little I stretch nowadays, but that can be saved for later as the main focus now is just the splits. And just when I was about to get it, I gave up. So for the next couple of days, I learned how to dry hump the carpet, and on a warm sunny afternoon, I achieved the first pose. I then did some toe touches on each side to stretch that torso out before letting out a huge sigh of relief. So appearance wise, this is probably a 4, and when it comes to pain level, I would give this a 2 given my current flexibility abilities. And when it comes to relief, I felt quite good, so I'll give that a 4. Before doing anything, I first had to warm up as I don't have the flexibility of a ballerina sadly, but once that's done, it was time to fold myself in half and suck my own Smell my knees. Minus half star solely because of this position, and the only struggle of this pose was my inability to breathe properly. But who needs oxygen when you can do this? Now when it comes to appearance, this is god awful, so I'm giving it a 1 because I look very suspicious here. And for pain, I would say this is a 2, wasn't too bad. And when it comes to relief, this was a 1. Now it's time to ramp up the difficulty, so I rolled out the yoga mat as usual and dropped down to begin the warm up.
Oh, for fuck's sake.
But the pain was too much. That's when I decided to force my way to greatness, which turned out to be a bad idea because I almost tore my hamstrings. So afterwards I followed the plan instead of my mood. And then it was time to look like a fool because this angle was very... So I quickly switched sides and flipped the position. Straining and realising how unprepared I was, I dropped it like it's hot to stretch some more and continued where I left off while scouting out the window for my neighbours, as doing shit like this with no context is very, very suspicious. Laughing at the joke my hamstrings told me, I proceeded to reach for my shin on the other side of my body until I completed the pose. Wait a minute. If we flip the image, draw the shape, and then... Motherfuck! So tomorrow, it was rise and shine, rinse and repeat. We wake up and attack the day with... What the fuck? We drop down, banana splits, switch legs, switch, Nintendo Switch, stretch, switch some more, and then try again, but this time, even lower. But there was one problem, the floor. Regardless of how flexible I felt at this moment of time, the floor was too slippery, so the only solution was a shoe. And with that, I finally succeeded. But was unaware at the time and went even lower, then paid the price. Appearance wise, this was a 4 out of 5, because from an outside perspective, this is quite impressive to do, in my opinion. But the pain was borderline unbearable, so I'm giving this a 5 out of 5. And when it comes to relief, I'm just glad it's over, so it's a 3 out of 5. And good news is, I still have 4 more exercises to complete. As someone who definitely follows his own advice of warming up before exercising, I almost pulled my back. So the solution was a foam roller for the back. Fear not, I am a trained professional, so I know what I'm doing. It's exactly what I would say if I was a trained professional. But nevertheless, once that side quest was completed, I tried again, and there we have it. Everything worked out just as planned. Appearance, this was a 5 because I think it looks quite cool. and the pain was probably a 2. Would have been a 1 if I didn't pull my back, which brings me on to relief, which is only a 2, because I felt the same afterwards. Now I know this exercise falls more into calisthenics, but I was curious. So with zero confidence in my T-Rex arms, I first used my push-up bars for some leverage and somehow managed to hold myself up for a few seconds, to which I then tried with my fists.
Oh, almost had it.
The next day I began with some warm-up stretches, and for the pose I ensured my legs were tightly tucked in and touching my elbows. And upon realising my arms were too close together, I went wide, and with a lot of forearm strength, I was getting somewhere. After some self-reflection, literally, I placed all of my focus into balloons. I mustered up every muscle fibre within my forearms, and maybe my abs, to finally hold myself up, for what felt like an eternity. Appearance, this was a 5 out of 5 because I looked sick as fuck, and for pain, pretty much a 0 because I didn't really feel any pain, and for relief, I would say a 1. So for the first time ever, I was able to fully lie down whilst doing the splits. Now from a practical standpoint, this is awesome, but aesthetic wise, I look very aerodynamic. This encouraged me to think of a new way of stretching, which was propping each leg against the wall and shuffling forward until I achieved a 180-degree angle. I did not cook on this one, so I stopped soon after and returned to straining until the brink of passing out, as it was the quickest method to get from not very flexible to very flexible. And with the split being as straight as an arrow, it was time. However, I did not know where to begin, so I kind of just straddled onto each stool and failed miserably. Then I realised, why not use a stool to first sit on so I can get into position before pulling it away.
Bro, this is fucking stupid.
This was probably the greatest idea I ever thought of, because who needs hamstrings and dignity when you can do this? I tried again because it wasn't perfect and ended up looking like a Shaolin monk. This was not acceptable. So the next day, I tried again. Now I am qualified to play badminton. Appearance, this was a 2 out of 5 because there was nothing graceful or aesthetically pleasing about it. I just looked like a fud. And for the pain, this was excruciatingly painful. I thought I was going to die, to be honest. So I'm giving this a 6. And for relief, this is a 5. I'm so glad it's over. But sadly, I still have one more pose to do. And I tore my hamstrings. Yep, that really happened. At first I was really bruised up, and I thought, maybe I fell. But then I realised I don't go outside. So it's been a year, and I still have a bump on each of my thigh, but nevertheless, we are back. I think the injury has boosted my stats because I'm now more flexible than ever before. And I don't know why I held up my fist like I'm about to scrap, but as I finished the warm-up on one side and the other, it was time to somehow do this pose. Luckily, I had an idea.
If I use this and tie this behind my leg.
Safe to say, I am full of bright ideas.
Baki!
I then tried the other side.
Oh my god, this leg is not as flexible. We're going back to my left leg. The right leg isn't going to cut it.
Surprisingly, I was making progress. Until I was reminded the feeling of getting whipped. And there we have it. My best attempt of doing this pose. Appearance, this could have been a 5, but I used my hand for some assistance, so I'm dropping it down to 4. And when it comes to pain, this wasn't as sore as the previous poses, so it's a 3 out of 5. And for relief, so glad that it's over. Thank fuck. Never stretching ever again.